It's Ash from Super Videos back at you for another video. This is gonna be my things you may have missed and Easter eggs for the season 7 finale of The Walking Dead, which was called The First Day of the Rest of Your Life. Now, before I actually get started with this things you may have missed video, I just wanna share a little story with you guys. It's like a mini rant. So, yesterday I was at my local comic shop. I was getting the latest issue of The Walking Dead's comic book, issue 166. And as I was about to pay and leave, the comic book shop cashier tells me, "Did you watch The Walking Dead's season 7 finale?" And it took me by surprise a little bit that he asked, but I said yes, and I was basically waiting for him to say, "Oh, it was an amazing episode," or something along those lines, but he comes out and says, "I shit you not, it was pretty uneventful. I didn't really enjoy it." And I just didn't know what to say. I said, I actually enjoyed it. So, yeah, but I understand someone saying that they don't like it because of this and this and this, and saying that these parts were not as good or something along those lines. But to say it's uneventful, I just don't agree with that, because there was a lot of things going on in that episode, especially in the last 45 minutes, I would say. So I don't agree that it's uneventful, but that actually got me thinking. Do people really think that it was uneventful? Even if you didn't enjoy it, do you still think that it was uneventful? I want you to share your opinions about this in the comment section below. Let me know if you actually thought the episode was uneventful, because I actually don't think so. I strongly believe that it was a great episode, but even if you don't agree with that, you have to agree that it was eventful. There is no way around that. It was an eventful episode. We see a bunch of things happen. But that's it for my mini rant. Let's get right into this. So the first thing, in the intro we have Sasha passing out. For those that missed it, that's actually the exact moment Sasha dies. So this is right after she takes the pill, and it's probably 30 minutes after she took the pill, because Eugene said it takes 30 minutes for the pill to work. So this is 30 minutes after Sasha takes the pill. So this is when Sasha in her human form dies. So that's pretty cool. The next thing, when we have these shots of Sasha in the casket and she's kind of listening to music and things like that, it's very reminiscent of the shots they did in the season 6 finale, where they basically showed us a POV shot of the people inside the van that were captured. If you remember, Michonne, Daryl, Rosita were all there in that van, and this POV shot was kind of there, and it was like a transition. So after a commercial, we would see these POV shots of the person inside. By the end of the episode, it actually merged into the main storyline, and we actually saw what it was about. So in the same way, these shots of Sasha in the casket has the same effect. And there are even points where it's like black screen and we hear the knock knock from Negan on the casket. So that's very reminiscent also of the sounds we kept hearing in 616 when we were looking from the POV shot of the person inside the van. So that's pretty cool. The next thing, the Abraham flashbacks. So the flashbacks we got with Abraham and Sasha in 716 were actually scenes that played out the morning of the Lucille lineup back in 616. So in 616, there's one part where everyone's getting into the RV and we see Abraham and Sasha approach the RV. These flashbacks that we got in 716 were basically what happened with those two before they got to the RV. They went on to try to get Maggie to Alexandria, where basically Abraham ends up dying. So that was very cool as well. The next thing that's also related to the flashbacks with Abraham. So Sasha was basically thinking about a dead person. In her mind, she was thinking of Abraham. In the same way, Tyrese, who was Sasha's brother, kept having these hallucinations and seeing dead people right before he died. If you remember, he saw the governor, Lizzie and Mika, the member of the Termites, and also Bob. So the same way that Tyrese was seeing these hallucinations before he died, in the episode he died, Sasha was having these flashbacks of Abraham, the person who died in the premiere. So that was cool as well. It was a cool callback to Tyrese. Then the next thing, the flashbacks between Maggie and Sasha were actually meant to be recreations of scenes back in season 5 with Sasha and Maggie when they were sitting down on a log, basically right before they got to Alexandria. This was the moment where Aaron approached them and took him to Alexandria. The next thing when we are at the hilltop and we have this conversation between Jesus, Maggie, and Enid, we see a baby there. That's actually Judith at the hilltop. If you remember, in 7:15, Jesus was with them at the oceanside. Jesus went back to Alexandria, and that's when Rosita told him about Dwight and everything. And then from there, Jesus probably went back to Hilltop. But I think Jesus and Enid took Judith from Alexandria back to Hilltop because they knew that there's going to be some sort of confrontation with Negan the next day, so they didn't want Judith to be there. So they probably took Judith to Hilltop so that she's safe there. So next, we have the Saviors being stopped by some roadblocks, and that's actually a callback to the roadblocks that the Saviors put for the survivors in 616. And specifically, because Dwight was cutting trees, and the roadblocks were actually trees, I think that's a direct callback to the logs Saviors were burning in 616. So it's not just a callback to any of the roadblocks in 616, it's a direct callback to the log burning roadblock in 616. So that was very cool. Next, we have the scavengers coming to Alexandria. They were on bikes. We actually got a promotional image of a bicycle a few months ago. So that image that I have on screen here is related to these bikes that the scavengers rode to Alexandria. So that was cool as well. Next, when we have Jadis asking Michonne if she can lay with Rick, right after they leave, Jadis turns around and gives a little wink or something like that to the camera. Now, it's not directly to the camera because she's actually looking at her people, but I think it's indirectly doing it to the camera. So they're actually breaking the fourth wall in this specific scene. Jadis is basically looking at the audience, giving that look. So she's basically looking at people who find Andrew Lincoln attractive, and she's basically doing it to those people. So that was cool. Next, we have Sasha saying, "Nobody has to die," to Negan. That's actually a direct callback to Tyrese. When Tyrese was talking to one of the members of the Termites, he said, "Nobody's gotta die today." And in this episode, Sasha said, "No one has to die." So it's a direct callback to Tyrese. So that's the second callback to Tyrese we had in this episode. So that was cool. Next, we have the Michonne and the Scavengers scene where Michonne basically gets the Andrea beatdown moment from the comics. So there's two moments here. One, right before the Scavenger garbage pail kid person is about to go, she says, "We win." Now that is a subtle foreshadowing at what's to come. So she's basically saying, "We win, you lose." She doesn't say that, she just says, "We win," but she doesn't mean that they win collectively. She means that the Scavengers win because they're on the winning side. They're with Negan. So it's like a subtle hint at them betraying Rick and the others. So that was cool. But the next thing is that the person playing that Scavenger girl looks a lot like Andrea in the comics. And if you think about it, Michonne got the Andrea beatdown, and the person that beat Michonne looks like Andrea. So it's like a cool, clever little thing that they put in there, which I thought was very cool. So the image I have right now with this scavenger lady with the sniper rifle, and if you look at the comics image of Andrea, you can see that they're very similar. So that was cool. Next, we have the scene where Negan basically says, "Have you ever heard that story about that little prick named Rick who thought he knew shit but didn't know shit and ended up getting everyone he gave a shit about killed?" That's actually a direct line from the comics. So that's pretty cool. This little Negan dialogue comes back into play later on in the comics. And we hear a similar dialogue, but from Rick. For comic readers, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So if they put Negan saying that in the comics, in the show, in this episode, I'm pretty sure that they're gonna put the scene where Rick says a similar dialogue in the episode that happens as well. So then it might be a hint, because if this happened in 716, what if the Rick dialogue happens in 816? It'll be a great callback. And it'll be like everything went full circle from one season finale to another season finale, which indicates or hints at All Out War being an entire season, which is very cool. Still, it's a stretch, but if we're thinking about something coming back into play and becoming a full circle kind of thing, or kind of a callback, it would make more sense for it to be from one season finale to another season finale than if it's from one season finale to a mid-season finale. So because of that, I think it is a bit of a hint that we may see All Out War play out for an entire season. Next, when Negan says to Rick, you choose someone for Lucille, that's basically a callback to something in the comics that didn't really happen. Because in the comics, Robert Kirkman said that he originally planned for Negan's first victim from the Lucille lineup to be someone picked by Rick. So Negan telling Rick, you choose someone for Lucille, is actually a Easter egg or a callback to something in the comics that Robert Kirkman originally planned to do, but didn't actually do. So that was cool. Next, right before Simon and Dwight take out the casket, we have Negan saying, Dwight, Simon, chop chop. Now we heard that same exact line in season 6 episode 16 as well. In that episode, we had Simon telling Dwight, chop chop. That's before Dwight went to the van, opened the van, and Glenn, Daryl, Michonne, and Rosita got out of the van. And that's when they joined the lineup. So Negan saying chop chop, it's like a direct callback to Simon saying chop chop in 616. So that was cool. Next, if you were wondering who Sasha bit, the member of the Savior, he was actually the same member of the Saviors that was talking to Enid a few episodes ago. If you remember, he asked Enid to call them vegetables, not veggies. So he's the same exact Savior. He's actually the same Savior that almost caught Daryl at Hilltop. So that's the same Savior, so it's a cool Easter egg there. So next, right after Jadis shoots Rick, Jadis pushes Rick over the tower. And that's actually not the first time she's done that. If you remember, when they were at the up at the junkyard, Jadis did the exact same thing. She pushed Rick over the pile of junk, and that's right before Rick met the pretty cool walker, the gladiator walker. So that's pretty cool as well. So the next thing, the lineup scene. So obviously the lineup scene is a direct callback to the lineup scene from 616 and also 701. But if you remember, in 701, right when we actually get to see Negan doing the eeny, meeny, miny, mo and finally choosing someone, the way that scene is shot with Rick's POV, it's like similar to Rick's POV here with the way the camera moves. So it's a direct callback to that, which is pretty cool. Next, when we have Negan and Jadis making a deal, it mirrors Jadis and Rick making a deal as well, few episodes before. The other thing I wanted to mention here, which is very cool, is Negan is not having any of Jadis's crap. Negan just gives Jadis this stare and Jadis backs down, so that was cool. The other thing, which is pretty obvious, I think everyone noticed this, the not today, not tomorrow, but I'm gonna kill you scene from Rick in 716 mirrors the exact same speech he gave Negan in 701, so that was cool. Now, next, right after Shiva attacks and shit goes down, there is 2 scenes with Negan mentioning 2 things that I think some people may have missed. One, he actually mentions the tiger. Negan says, goddamn tiger, during one of the scenes he has when he's shooting. So that's cool, but the other thing is Negan actually reacts to seeing Maggie alive as well. Negan says, that widow is alive, guns are blazing. So that's cool that Negan actually noticed Maggie alive and made a comment about it. The next thing, the statue that said didn't know, that's actually Dwight. So Dwight wrote that message for the survivors to let them know that he didn't have any knowledge about Jadis and the Scavengers being double agents. So that was cool. So the next thing, when we have the speech from the 3 leaders from the communities, Ezekiel, Rick, and Maggie, that's actually pretty cool because those are the 3 main leaders from our survivor group that are going to be involved in All Out War. And if you take a look at some of the covers for the issues that are in All Out War, we have one for Ezekiel, one for Rick, one for Maggie. So it's cool that we have all of these 3 leaders making speeches in this episode, throughout the episode. And also in this specific scene, they're all next to each other, ready to let their people know that they're ready for war. So that's pretty cool. The last thing, when the scavengers are running away, if you look back at that scene, you see that when they're trying to open the gates to follow them and get Negan and the others and also the scavengers, the gate doesn't open. It's stuck. So it's jammed. And if you take a look at what Daryl looks at when he looks down at the gate, you can see there's a red umbrella that's basically jamming the gates so it can't open or close. So that is actually an umbrella that one of the members of the scavengers brought to Alexandria. When the scavengers first got to Alexandria, there's one shot of this scavenger here, and he has a red umbrella, and that umbrella is used to jam the gates. So that's basically it for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll be back for another video.